The use of selection tools in any image manipulation program is one of the most essential operations that you can learn. And in this movie, we're going to be exploring the basic selection tools that are available to you inside of GIMP. In this document that I have open here, you're going to see a number of shapes on screen. However, these shapes are all merged onto one layer, meaning that I don't have individual control over them at all. So if I try to click and move, say this red square, I actually move the entire photo. I'm going to undo that with Command or Control Z. And so what I want to do here is actually make a selection around these different shapes and then turn them into layers so that I can then have individual control over each element that I see on screen. In order to do that, I'm going to have to use the selection tools that are available to me inside of GIMP. The two basic selection tools that you have are this one right here, the rectangular select tool or rectangle select tool, and also the ellipse select tool. This allows you to make a circular selection. The first one allows you to make a square or rectangular selection. And so in order to use these, you simply click on them to activate the tool you want to use. And then you just come out here. You want to make sure if you're trying to select something like a square, make sure the targets sort of line up with the square just like so. And then just click with your mouse and drag out a selection. Once you get the selection around the object that you're trying to select, then all you have to do is release your mouse and you get an active selection around that object. Let's try that again. I'm going to go up to Select and choose None. That's going to deactivate my selection. And now I'm just going to try it again. So let's go over here to this one. I'll line up my little targets, click, and we'll drag out like so. Once I get it around the object I'm trying to select, I let go and I get an active selection. Now let's try the elliptical tool. I'll go over and grab that tool. This time I'm going to go to Select None again. You can also press the keyboard shortcut Shift-Command-A in order to do that. And so with the elliptical tool, it's a little bit of a challenge, but all you have to do is just kind of line it up with the top and the left-hand side and then draw out your selection, something like this. And you may not get it perfect every time, and that's okay. You can always just restart and do it again. That's pretty close. There you go. You get an active selection. You'll get better at this over time. You just have to, come in and open up a document like this and practice making elliptical selections, making rectangular selections to really get really good at it. Let's try the keyboard shortcut Shift-Command-A to deselect, and let's try this shape over here. I'm going to go over here to about where this starts and drag out a selection this way. And as you can see, I'm a little off on my selection, and that's okay. You can always kind of modify that if you need to. Just drag it in once it's made. There we go. And line it back up. And so that's the basic operations for these selection tools. And what these selection tools allow you to do is grab a certain piece of your design, like for instance this circle, and then you could actually move that to its own layer. And so you could say, right here, you go to the layer menu, and you could actually go in and say, New Layer via Cut. And when you do that, you're going to see here, I get a new layer called Layer via Cut. If I turn off the background layer, you're only going to see that magenta circle underneath. Let's turn that back on. And now let's go up here and do the same thing for the square. I'll grab my rectangular marquee tool, and I'll come up here and just make a selection around this red box. Once I get my active selection, I'll make sure I'm working on the background layer. Always make sure you're targeting the right layer when doing this. And then go up to the Layer menu and choose New Layer via Cut. That gives me that layer on its own. And let's continue on. Let's do this blue one right here. There we go. And make sure I'm targeting the background layer. Layer, New Layer via Cut. Finally, let's target the background layer one more time. I'll grab my Ellipse Select tool. And I'll make a rough selection around this one. Remember, if you don't get it perfect right off the bat, that's okay. You can always come up and adjust just by going to the edge and clicking and dragging down or over or however far you need to go. Once you have an active selection around it, make sure you're targeting the right layer. Go to Layer, New Layer via Cut. And so now I'll turn off all the layers except for my background layer. You'll see that I've actually just kind of made it almost like a cookie cutter type thing where I cut them all out. And if I throw the background layer away and then turn on all the other layers, you see I've now got my 4 shapes all on their own layer, able to be independently controlled, scaled, modified, or whatever using any of the tools that are available to me in GIMP. So Hopefully now you have a better understanding of the basic selection tools here inside of GIMP and how to use those to select various regions of your artwork, and also how to then take your selections and transform them into layers so that you can separate what once was a flat composition and turn it into a nice layered file.